So, what character do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about a character in the yellow wallpaper or in... Okay, alright. We'll talk about the yellow wallpaper. So, let's talk about... Do we want to talk about the dude? Or do you want to talk about the girl?
Can we talk about the girl?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have thoughts on her.
Alright. Shelby, go ahead and start.
Okay, so I feel like with her clawing the yellow wallpaper and everything and, like, her going crazy and her fixation on the wallpaper, like, I don't think her motivation was necessarily, like, she didn't really realize what was happening. Like, in her mind, she thought she was being completely sane and logical. And I think it's kind of a good reflection of, like, mental illness in general, because her fixation on the yellow wallpaper was her trying to gain some sense of control or normalcy with her mental illness developing, because she didn't know she had a mental illness. And so the yellow wallpaper was a way for her to feel more in control of this situation, I think. And I think that's her motivation. Like, everything throughout the whole story was to try and gain some sense of control and normalcy.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, also, I think that the odd behavior the woman shows was, like, she was, as she said, she was, like, crying on the floor and, like, ripping up the paper, the wallpaper. Because she was suffering from depression after, like, childbirth, and had a, like, bizarre feeling in the wallpaper. And she realized that it was the form of the woman similar to her, and then followed their behavior. It kind of shows that she wanted to be free, because like her husband kind of like forced her to stay there. So like she was trampling on the patriarchal, her husband's old costumes.
Yeah. Okay. So I read this in high school. So we talked about it a lot, but I think, like, it's a good reflection of, like, everything that you guys have said. Like, it's a reflection of her. When she's, like, locked in this, like, room, like, her husband is this respected physician, and so he's like, I know what's wrong with you. I'm not going to give you any reason, and I'm not going to tell you anything, and I'm going to keep you locked in here like a little captive person, and you don't get to have contact with the outside world, and you don't get to do all this. And I think that this is a really interesting way that, like, this was normally dealt with. Like, this is a reflection of, like, the times and how they actually treated women and what they went through. And, like, historical background on this is, like, they would do this when girls were on their periods. Like, they would do this all the time, like, in all these situations for females. And it's, like, that's not going to help. Like, isolating them, taking away creative outlets. So this is, like, a reflection of her being able to, like that freedom that you were talking about. Like, she needs to be free. She needs to be able to, like, be outside to see the world. When she starts to see the people or the woman outside, like, in the garden area, that's, like, my favorite, because it's, like, finally this expression of, like, I understand that I am seeing this woman and she's a reflection of me, and I have to get free, and I have to do something, and I have to express in some way that, like, I am not okay. What's going on is not okay. And, yeah. And then I really like when the husband, like, walks in and then it's, like, sees that she's, like, going a little bit insane because she's been cooped up. I mean, like, who wouldn't, right? And she, like, starts to go insane, and then he faints, and she just keeps doing her thing. I think it's interesting at that point that she doesn't, like, try to leave. Yeah. She just keeps clawing at the wallpaper and creeping over him. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really feel like it's kind of a weird story though, like the wife like trying to crawl, tripping over the husband. Like, I mean, it's weird, but it shows though, like, she overcame the patriarchal thing and be free from, like, the liberty.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a really good depiction of mental illness. Like, when I read it, it, like, seemed like a good depiction of mental illness. Like, would you guys agree?
Yeah.
And I feel like it shows the torment that a lot of people with mental illness go through, because I feel like her clawing like I said, was a way to gain a sense of control, but I also think it was kind of compulsion, and like I don't think she completely had control over doing that. Like I don't think she wanted to be clawing the wallpaper off, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think she just wasn't thinking logically.
Like it became a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there wasn't really anything for her to think logically about.
Yeah.
Like, she's a girl at this point in this age. She's not very, I mean, you can have some education, but it's not like she's, like, taking a break from college or anything like that.
Yeah.
And this is a time when women don't have this freedom. They don't have liberty. They don't have individuality. They're there to be parents, to have kids, and then to raise those kids. And that's, like, what they're allowed to do. And so the way she deals with it is, I think that the clawing, and I do agree that she's not able to control it. She doesn't necessarily want to, but I just think it's interesting that you use the word illogical thinking to describe her.
Yeah.
So do you think that the husband kind of affect her to feel like a mental illness thing? Because her husband like kind of forced her a lot.
I think that because the husband forced her into this room, wouldn't let her leave, wouldn't let her write, wouldn't let her have a creative outlet. It talks about all that. And she doesn't like this wallpaper. She doesn't like the room. She wants to move rooms, but he's like, nope, this is where you are. You're staying here. You can't write. You can't be creative. Nothing. I think it forces her more into this state, the mental illness state. Because, like, if people with, like, social anxiety, if they stay isolated and they don't practice being around people and dealing with it, it gets way worse. Like, they cannot go out and function normally in life because they just don't know how. So I feel like definitely him locking her up just exasperates the situation, makes it so much worse. It was really good and interesting social commentary for today.
Okay, cool. And do you have to talk about the other one, the temporary matter?
Do we have to talk about that one, or are we allowed to just talk about the one?
I think we're allowed to just talk about the one.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, in the assignment you said, like, it doesn't say anything about it, but you just said read the following stories. Temporary matter and the yellow wallpaper.
Yeah.
Okay, just like...
Because the page response is about one character.
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay, fine. Cool.
Okay, wait, it's only been 8 minutes. We got in trouble for having just 12 minutes. So we have
That's right.
Wait, how long does it have to be?
Longer than 10 minutes.
Even with 3 people?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a symbol. The color yellow. Does that reflect motivation? I don't know.
Yeah,
Is it like a bit ironic? Because it's like she's clearly not happy or like satisfied at all, and she's like around the happiest color.
And like she's locked in this room. Like she doesn't get to be out and experience like yellow. You usually think of like sunflowers or the sun or like these natural kind of things. And this is a real unnatural situation that she's in. So maybe
And I thought about the author who wrote this like novel at the time, because it was written like long time ago.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was written in the era like when a woman kind of like give a chance for men to refute, but they just overcame emotional and obedient woman. It seems to be so.
Yeah.
I think that the author was really great at the time.
This is like a really like outspoken piece at the time too.
Yeah, that's what I felt.
Yeah.
The story.
It lasted a while.
And I think that the quote it's like in page like 654 is said like sometimes I think there are a great many women behind and sometimes only one and she crawls around fast. And her crawling shakes it all over. And I think it's an important quote because it kind of shows that she overcame the patriarchy and is free from liberty.
Okay. I like that. Let's talk about when she starts to see, like, towards the end, when there's, like, a lot of girls, she sees a lot of women. Do you remember that part? I think that that's a really interesting part because I'm like, okay, not all of these people, not all of these people can represent her. And so, like, I think that that's more a social commentary on the author's part and being like, we're aware that this is how women are placed when they go through things like this. We're aware that they get placed in these rooms, that they get isolated from society. Like, this is the thing that everyone knows about. And it's wrong, yeah, but they don't see it wrong at the time, except for a few people. And so I think that this is a commentary on his part, and it has less to do with the character and, like, the intrinsic motivations of her, and more to do with, like, she is not the only one going through this. There are other people who are going through this, and they're being forced into it.
Yeah.
That's right. And it is really also interesting that, as we can see in this passage, like, the woman, she was called as she first time, but later it changed to I.
Yeah.
So it shows that, like, she became, like, the woman. Like, I don't know, the girls there.
Yeah, that, like, ownership of, like, I recognize that what I'm seeing, it's like that self-realization of, like, okay, something's going on that's, like, wrong.
Yeah.
And this is how I'm coping, and, like, this is my freedom. This is how I can get through this.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, we're good. Okay, Minsink, you're writing this one up, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool.
I do it.
Okay.
And can you send me the link?
Yep, of course.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Okay.
See y'all later. Bye.